I want to ask you a question. Can you think of a better way to, make a comeback, open up the floor back to customers, resume this platform, if not, a little bit of slander? Now, today's episode isn't really actually about slander. Today's episode is trying to answer a couple of questions and thinking through just what the fuck was our upbringing? Like, what the hell was that? Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good whatever time of the day you are listening to this. My name is Daniel Briggs-Adisa, and I am the titular host of, Volatile Science with Daniel. If this is your first time here, hello, welcome, Happy New Year. If this is your old time here, did I just say old time? Anyway, if you are a regular or you are just making a comeback, Happy New Year to you too. I know this is April going on May, but you know what? Who is counting? Who is counting in the Lord is not me. Today, we are going to be talking about Nigerian parents and we Nigerian children. This was prompted to me by a follower of the pod, somebody that reached out and was like, when the hell are you coming back, you this nigga? When the hell are you coming back, you fool? And I was like, give me something to talk about and I'll come back. And the person was like, sure, talk about this. And apparently they wanted me to kind of like talk about this phenomena that we've noticed in our lives and we've seen over and over and over again, which is when children, adult children specifically, but, young adults, adult children distance themselves from their parents. And in this episode, we're going to be putting it in the context of Nigerian parents. Not saying that this is specific to Nigerian parents or like this phenomena is only observed in Nigeria, but, I cannot talk about the whole world like as if I am wise enough to talk about the whole world. I am barely wise enough to talk about what it is I'm going to be talking about in this episode. So, give me some slack, okay? Nigerian parents, let's shoot into it. I assume for many of us, if we were going to be confronting our parents over some of the downright batshit crazy things that they did to us while we were growing up, the conversation would be something along the lines of this.
You physically and emotionally abused everybody in the house. I even asked myself, are you our father? Your hands touched everybody, and I mean everybody. I remember going to school with scars in my body, and that was even in secondary school. Why?
When I was in JS2, you would give me 10 strokes of cane in the morning, even if I don't do anything, so I can just go to school and behave myself.
It's about making sure that you will not even think about doing something bad. Knowing fully well that you have one crazy man at home. I'm not sure I ever did that to you.
If I could switch roles, I would give you the 10 strokes of cane in the morning.
Or this.
There's this thing you and Dad do. You know that anything about house chores, I do not like it. You sometimes unconsciously compare me to other kids. You say, look at XYZ. She's helping their parents do this. Like when we're younger. I'm not talking about now, when we're younger, because I said sometimes, yeah? So, and I'm like, okay, so the things that I do, are you sure that XYZ would do for their parents? In those moments, I feel unappreciated because you don't appreciate the little things that I do, but you see the ones that I don't do.
Or maybe it would be even much more hostile like this.
See, it's not in terms of results.
You don't sit right.
It was not in terms of results I'm talking about.
What?
In other things, there are a lot of things that you do that most times I'll just want to, sometimes I'm very, very angry that I'll, like, if I see you like that, I'll just stop, but I'll just keep quiet and go inside.
And sometimes it's neither of all three. Sometimes it's actually much more apathetical, kind of like, yeah, I'm giving up on you. You probably noticed, but, I'm just going to act like as if I haven't given up on you. Something along the lines of this.
Why don't you like to wash my clothes? Care for me. That is something that always gets me hungry. Always.
Now I have gone very busy that I don't even wash my own clothes.
I can remember last week you washed your clothes
Yes, I did.
by yourself. And you abandoned my home or where
I came back home last 2 weeks. And before then, I don't used to wash my clothes even in school. I wash it once in a while, but I have somebody that wash my clothes because I'm most times busy.
Now, I'm very sure that you probably relate to one of all four scenarios. Or maybe you relate to all of them, to be very honest, because I could relate to each and every single one of them, okay? One thing that is a theme through all of those clips, by the way, those clips come from Cruise TV, some of their mothers and daughters series, father and son series, all of that. One thing that undergirds, or should I say connect all four clips, allowing me to string them up in a single narrative, is the fact that many of these people grew up and they grew up with less than savory or satisfactory parentage, okay? Let's be very honest, many of us, our parents were not good at the job. Now, yeah, sure, a lot of people did not get prepared. Many of them were raised in certain ways, etc., etc., etc. And honestly, how prepared can you be to be a parent? I mean, there's a lot of things you can do to prepare. Let's not lie. There's a ton of things you can do to prepare, especially now in big 2026. But back then, I assumed there really wasn't much to go on with. But that isn't really the problem. I think the bigger problem is that many of us noticed that some of our parents were not even trying to be good parents in the first place. They were not trying to improve on, the template that they were given. They were not trying to be, different from their fathers and mothers that they always complained about. They were not trying to do anything different or do anything better. They simply were just, winging it. Winging it, Gossip, is being generous. I saw a tweet today where a girl was talking about, convocation. She's graduating from university. She has a sash that talks about, she's now a pharmacist. There's a title that they are giving, supposedly. I don't know what it is. I didn't care enough to, remember. But she had a sash and she was like, yeah, my dad is all that stash. And then he took it from me and kissed it. That man is so proud of me. And then somebody quoted that tweet and said, if that was my father, he would have looked at me and said, why are you so excited? Are you the only person to, successfully go through a pharmacology course in university? Which one is your father? Which one is your father? Because while my father isn't necessarily any one of the two, I can tell you he is closer to the second one, not the first one. He's closer to the second one. Over time, I used to wonder, why exactly is my relationship with my father so shitty, and while my relationship with my mother is not in Shitsville, it's not necessarily the best either. I wouldn't describe my mother necessarily as my friend who I'm going to confide things with, but me and her, we cool, we chill, we love each other, we chill. My father, on the other hand, Over time, as I was thinking through all these things, trying to also mend my relationship with my father, very unsuccessfully, by the way, I started to notice, or should I say, realize a bunch of reasons why there was such a strong distance, strong divide between I and my parents, and I was noticing that in many other people. It manifests in different ways. For some of us, it is total avoidance. For some of us, it is barely tolerable presence. For some of us, it is, loving you from afar, all those other kind of stuff. But one way or the other, many Nigerian adults, many young adults, have distanced themselves specifically emotionally from their parents. There are some of us that, unfortunately, due to the economy, due to how the country is, we cannot fully extricate ourselves physically and financially from our parents. So we still somewhat depend on them, even though we're also fending for ourselves. We are still going, or rather living in this state of detachment from our parents. We are not necessarily emotionally invested. We are on a duty kind of level, which we will talk about that in depth coming, very, very much coming soon. But one thing is true. Many people don't like their parents. And I don't think it is the children's fault. I think it is the parents' fault. Let's talk about discipline, for instance. Whenever we're talking about discipline in self-help spaces and motivational spaces and all those kind of spaces, we talk about discipline as a form of mastery of the self. We talk about discipline as an empowering thing. We talk about discipline as a very useful tool to orient ourselves and also structure our lives. But when we talk about it in the context of parents, when we talk about it in the context of authority figures, guardian figures, my God, discipline is anything but positive. It is some of the most negative thing that you can ever experience in your life. Maybe the reason why you struggle with discipline is not even because you're neurodivergent. Maybe it's because the only attachment you have to discipline is trauma. All of it is trauma. Somebody tells you, if you don't listen to me, I'm going to discipline you. That is not a promise of correction. That is not a promise of, you will be guided to realize your wrongs onto your right and how to properly orient yourself in the world. No, that is a threat to your physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual being. It's a threat. Imagine somebody telling you to do frog jumps for 3 hours straight and then tells you it is discipline. I am disciplining you so that you will not make the mistakes you made today, you will not make them tomorrow. But guess what? Nobody is actually telling you why that shit was a mistake and how to avoid the mistake. They are just telling you, avoid it. And in that process, what you're even learning is not that you need to avoid the thing itself, but rather that you need to avoid these people being aware of the thing itself. And so many of us ended up growing with this sense that we needed to hide, we needed to constantly obfuscate, we needed to constantly become ambiguous in our presentation and in our actions. And so at home, there's a version of us that is known. In school, there's a version of us that is known. And then down the street, 2 miles away, there is another version that is known. We start to fragment ourselves and fragment our identities just so that we can coexist with our parents. And we start that from a very, very young age. And one of the reasons why that is because many parents, whenever they're thinking about parenting and discipline, yes, discipline is a very strong and a very formative part of parenting, but how you think about it will direct how your parenting goes. Because for many people, discipline is not about guidance, it's not about correcting behaviors. Discipline is about punishment. Discipline is supposed to be violent. I remember there was this particular time where there was this boy in one of the SS classes when I was teaching, and almost every teacher had problems with this boy in particular, and I also had my problems with him. But one thing that made me kind of like take a step back and see that, what exactly am I not seeing? What exactly am I not cognizant of here? Was that every single teacher had a problem with this boy, and it seemed like nobody was thinking of a solution that did not involve beating the shit out of him or ridiculing him constantly in class. Which made me take a step back, because the framing that every single teacher was putting it under was they needed to discipline him, they needed to, shape him, they needed to push him to become somebody. Who that person was, I don't think any one of them really had a definite idea, but like to become somebody. And in that instance, I kind of realized that this is exactly what our parents did to us, right? Our parents gave birth to us, many of them having certain expectations for how our life will go, what kind of person we'll be, and how they are going to shape us into that exact image. And the problem there isn't that they had expectations in the first place. The problem is that those expectations never shaped themselves to who we were growing to be. There's a difference between who you are growing to be as a person, because, many of us are born with certain templates and certain predefined settings in our biology that will shape how we will manifest ourselves personality-wise and all of that bullshit in the world. And so there is no such thing as shaping your child to be a certain way. There is no such thing as, hacking your child's brain, to make them become a certain type of person. Most of the time, the development of our personalities and how we think, how we orient ourselves throughout the world is a combination of instruction, but also realizations and reactions to the environment and realities around us. All of those words to say exactly this one thing. Many parents are under the delusion that they can program their child. You can't program another human being. You can implement certain features, you can attach certain ideologies, but you would never be totally in control of who exactly that person shapes out to be. And many children live under the suffocating image that their parents have already thought of them, the suffocating infrastructure or blueprint of who they want them to be that does not take into context what type of personality they are, what their dislikes are. I mean, many parents don't even know a single friend of their child. I know that sounds somehow, but trust me, trust me, many parents do not know a single friend of their child. I don't think any of my parents know any of my adult friends, to be very honest. Maybe my mom knows one or two. But one of the major reasons for that is because there is such a strong divide in my actual life and the life I have with them. And to be very honest, I don't think I want those two to ever intersect. I'm sorry, I just don't think I ever want them to intersect. Now, to piggyback off the discipline route that we started with, let's talk about actual parenting guidance, right? Parents are supposed to guide you, teach you, instruct you. We grew up mainly trying to figure out what our parents meant through tears and sorrows and, backbreaking emotional work. For instance, now I remember when I was in primary one, I think it was primary one. Yeah, probably primary one. I was starting a new school and it was my very first day in the school. Then this teacher asked me to go and buy bread at a bakery. First off, I'm not in uniform, ma. I am literally a new student. I am a student. Why are you sending me to go and buy bread at a bakery somewhere? I'm literally new to this entire area. She didn't give a fuck. I went to go and buy the bread anyway. Then I came back. Now, let me paint you this picture. I am a child who just years ago, maybe like a year or two ago, came from Port Harcourt. A year or two ago, okay. A year ago, came from Port Harcourt. Yoruba is really, really not my strong suit. Also, sarcasm really wasn't a thing for me. Back then, I hadn't discovered sarcasm, but I discovered sarcasm in primary 2. And my God, it's been so beautiful ever since. Anyway, as I was saying, I brought the bread to this woman, and then the next thing I asked her, where should I put it? Because again, I am new here. I don't know her name. I don't know what class she's in. I don't know, where her desk is. I don't know anything about this woman. And to be very honest, I still find it very, very suspect and very, very neglectful that she didn't realize I was a new student, because that was a very small school. Everybody knew each other in that school. That was a very small school. There is no way you see my preppy, choppy face and you do not know I was a new student. So anyway, I asked her, where should I put this bread? And she was like, Besori me. And here's the funny thing. Here's the ridiculously funny part of it. She bent down to tell me that. She bent down to tell me, put it on her head in Yoruba. And do you know what your boy did? Do you know what your boy did? Your boy put it on. I put it on her head, and then she was about to beat me because of it. But see, God, I swear to God, I did not know that she was being sarcastic. I really did not know. And so, I was standing there just wondering, why is she shouting at me? I did exactly what she asked me to do. What is going on here? And then somebody now explained to me that she didn't actually mean it, that she was being sarcastic. I still didn't really understand what that was, again, until primary 2. So, I was still just looking at everybody what's going on? And then she was like, why would I put you on her head? Couldn't I just go and put you on her desk? And then I looked at her straight on and I asked her, I was like, why didn't you just tell me to go and put it on your decks? She just looked at me. She was just dumbfounded. She just looked at me she didn't have an answer to that. And you know how adults in Nigeria tend to react when they don't have answers to things. Yep, they throw tantrums. Thank you very much. They throw motherfucking tantrums. And that's another thing. Many of us as children had to manage our parents' tantrums. Our parents were constantly throwing tantrums as full-grown adults. Full-grown fucking adults. Parents were throwing tantrums. You don't believe me? The trope of daddy comes home and everybody, runs into their room. Everybody starts to put themselves together because they just don't know what mood daddy came in with. Yes. That is an example of what I'm talking about. Do you know why that's an example? Because daddy came home and would pour out his frustration on every single living damn soul that crawls upon the earth, flies in the sky, and walks in the space of the house. He was throwing a tantrum. Was anybody at home really to blame for his frustrations? No. Heck fucking no. Especially the children. They were not to blame for his frustrations. But he was frustrated, which I get. Which I totally get. Being a parent is actually not that sweet, to be very honest. It's not sweet of an endeavor. It's not really a good time for the majority of it, because you have to be a parent and also you have to be a functioning, responsible adult in society. You got to work for yourself and kids. You have to work for yourself and kids. How about no? So I can imagine the amount of stress. I can understand the amount of frustration and anxiety that many parents were facing. But there's always this thing where it's like, oh, since you understand, you should be able to just let it go. No, I'm not letting that shit go, because you still came back home to pour that frustration out on me. You came back home pouring out that frustration on your kids. Let's say mommy and daddy had a fight. Mommy doesn't like how daddy spoke to her. Half of the time, you will find many mothers who will pour out that aggression on their kids. Pour out that frustration. They are fighting with daddy. What has that got to do with your 5-year-old? Why the hell are you screaming at your 5-year-old? are you okay? Therapy? Try something? Some devil's letters to calm down, maybe? I don't know. But like, something is not right there. Something is really not right there. And so you start looking at all these things and start looking at how there are many parents who have legit told their children or said it in the vicinity of their children that, if they didn't have children, they won't have to work so hard. And you are supposed to take that as a joke as the child. There are many times where my dad, quote unquote, joke that I wasn't his son. And it's usually during times where I would want his attention or ask for something from him, or would just try to connect with him on some level, and he just was not having it. And so he would like, go and meet your mom, For those of you who don't understand Yoruba, that's kind of like essentially saying, go meet your mama. I don't think you're my son. I don't know where she found you. And that was supposed to be a joke. And I remember at the time I confronted him on stuff like that, which was also when I realized that, trying to reconcile with this human being is most likely a lost endeavor. And I brought up a certain instance of uni where he, again, just did that same thing, flat out rejected me as, his offspring. And he was like, oh, he doesn't even remember. And he probably said that because he was frustrated. And I was like, what did I do? And it was like, it probably wasn't about you. It was probably something around work and expenses and different things like that. And for the life of me, I could not fathom why many people who are parents think that they have reason enough, that it is somewhat justified or, something you should not apologize for, that you are pouring out your frustration on your child. Do you know how children receive that shit? That shit stays with you. That shit constantly stays with you. You start to doubt yourself as a kid because you start doubting, do my parents even like me? Do my parents even want me? Every single time my mom says she loves me, but she's always yelling at me, telling me how useless I am, how forgetful I am. She wonders how I'm even able to do anything, how I'm even able to study in school and, pass my exams with such a dumbass brain that I have, only because I forgot to wash the spoon. After washing all the goddamn plates, I forgot to wash the spoon and she doesn't like the sink filled. What the hell was going on there? I remember there was this particular time where this boy opened up a Facebook account on his mom's phone so that he could talk to his friends on Facebook, like relate with them over for assignments and everything. Because, hey, it's the modern ages. We are past the 2010s. Smartphones and having Facebook accounts is quite regular for a lot of teenagers. It is frankly how they communicate because we don't even let them go outside that much anymore. So he opened that Facebook account. There was nothing untoward going. There was no dirty things. They were not having dirty conversations like many people are afraid, teenagers are constantly having. They were simply just doing, hey, hi. And do you know what this boy's mom did? She whooped the face out of the book of his ass. This woman whoop-de-doo. Oh my God. This woman, talk about overreaction. Talk about throwing a fucking goddamn tantrum with some justifying someone such as during your age, we do not have Facebook. We do not have all this kind of thing. All this is distraction. Can I not let you spoil your life? Because he opened up a Facebook account. And then she had the motherfucking audacity to bring the matter to school to report to the principal and some of his teachers. And we're like, we are not disciplining him enough. Why would he open up a Facebook account? Is that something he's supposed to be focusing on now? And again, you think your parents were not throwing tantrums? Many African parents are professional tantrum throwers. I mean, look at our elders in public right now. Look at our elders. You think the trend of train your parents before they leave home or else we'll train them outside for you is just a fad? No, it's a very, very realistic thing that is going on right now. Many parents are badly behaved. And if they are badly behaved as people, what makes you think that they were qualified to be good parents or that they were good parents throughout? Now, don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. Do our parents provide for us? Yes. Do they sacrifice a shit ton of their life, a shit ton of their resources, a shit ton of themselves to be our parents? Yes, they do. But the same way women are recognizing that material possession does not make the husband is the same way we need to also acknowledge that material provision does not make the parent. Okay? Keep up. Yes, thank you very much. Now, there's something we need to comprehend, and this is the point where I think a lot of people are going to push back against what I'm saying, whether they are a parent or not. And that's it. I don't think many Nigerian parents actually like their children. I don't think they liked becoming a parent in the first place, or they had a fantasy idea of what they were supposed to be or how parenting is going to be. And then the reality was just different. Then coupled with the fantasy of who they hoped you would be, how they hoped you would be, what you would become in the future, and then you did not fit that model. You did not stick according to the plan, because you are not a programmed app that functions a certain way. You are a whole ass human being, and then you develop differently than how people assume you will most of the time. And because of all of that, they become very frustrated. And all of this is happening in the midst of economic crisis, political crisis, job insecurities, losses over parents, friends, they are losing things, they are sacrificing, they are stressed, they are tired. All of this is happening and jumbling up together, which again, understandably, that is a stressful and frustrating aspect of life. That is a stressful and frustrating place to be. But here is the thing though, if you're going to be a parent, you should have trained yourself to have the emotional stability and regulatory methods to cope with all of that. And additionally, once we start getting frustrated at somebody because they are repeatedly disappointing to us, resentment is going to enter the equation. And I genuinely think a lot of parents are passively resentful towards their children. This might not seem quite obvious, especially if you're a straight child, but if you are queer, if you grew up queer, whether your family knows or whether they do not know even at this moment, you recognize exactly what it is I'm saying, because when you're queer, you learn quite early on, and for people who are uncultured, queer is, LGBT. Thank you very much. When you're queer, you learn quite quickly a very conditional nature of love, whether it is that of your parents or of your friends or of people around you or even of God, the very conditional nature of people's love. And then when you start to look at the conditions that undergird that love in and of itself, you realize that some of the conditions that we are talking about are things along the lines of total obedience, are things along the line of conformity, restriction, self-surveillance, all this kind of stuff. They are all very restrictive. Many of our expectations and many of the frameworks via which we parent and guide and mentor young people, especially children and teenagers in this country, is through the method of restriction. It's not exploration. We do not teach them to explore their skills. We do not teach them to, explore their humanity, their personality, their sexuality, all of this kind of stuff. We do not tell them to even think about these things in safe and appropriate ways. We constantly tell them to restrict themselves about these things. And these are things that has always been done since when we were children. You are 3 years old and your brother is 5 years old. Both of you are running around the entire house. Your 2-year-old sister is also babbling along with you. And, y'all are causing a ruckus. But you're children. But here's the thing. How the adults around you interact with that is not to direct your energy somewhere more productive, that has you still having fun, but creates less of a disturbance in the environment. No, that's not what happens. Majority of the time, what happens is that they tell you to shut the fuck up. Which I am guilty of, by the way. If your child is near me and they are screaming, I will tell them to shut the fuck up, okay? I am not a parent. I am not looking to be a parent. You do all that shit. That's your job. But to leave all brevity behind, it seems like as if that is too high a standard that I'm setting. It seems like as if, don't you know how stressful that is? But guess what? That is what you signed up for when you became a parent. That is exactly what you're signing up for when you become a parent, okay? It's not my fault that you don't know what you're signing up for. And that's the thing. I think at some point, a lot of us can feel that our parents they were not really aware of what they were getting themselves into. They didn't know they were going to get a smart mouth such as yourself, who knows exactly or has a response to every single thing that they say. As a child, they didn't know that they were going to get that person who is ridiculously nonchalant just by default. So any single thing that they say, they're just like, They didn't know they were going to get that person as a child. They did not know that they were going to get a doormat as a child. They did not know that they were going to get a ADHD widow child as a child. Because many people are groomed to expect their children to be properly healthy, which also includes having absolutely no mental conditions. Can't you see that all of us are fooling? But I said, I think a lot of Nigerian parents passively resent their children, right? What would make me say this? What would make me think of it this way? Well, when you are frustrated repeatedly by somebody or, by anything, and then you decide to blame one person, you decide to make that one person the anchor for why that frustration exists, and then you're expecting things of them, you're expecting them to act in certain ways, you're expecting them to frame themselves in certain ways, you're expecting them to speak in certain ways, dress in certain ways, do certain things, be certain ways, and they just aren't. Either by just being rebellious, or they are trying to actually be that, but it's just insufficient because you keep shifting the goalpost of what they are supposed to be, because even you yourself, you don't actually have a clear image. But our parents kept shifting the goalpost. They kept shifting it to the point that many of us did not know, and to this point don't even know where is the limit. When do we actually achieve being the child you were looking for? And then when do we start to become we? Start to exist as we. So that frustration, which breeds constant disappointment, there's no way you will not become resentful of the source of your constant disappointment. Many of us know this and have experienced this. Many of us grew up seeing the look of disappointment constantly on our parents' face, whether it was our fathers or our mothers or both of them at the same time. We see it and we feel it in their tone. We feel it in their demeanor, how they talk about us outside, how they speak to us, that on some level, these people are disappointed. And even though they are not outrightly saying, oh my God, you are such a goddamn failure, we know they think it. We know they feel it. And we know they believe it. And sometimes, people like to think, oh, how I feel about that person doesn't come across. I laugh in Yoruba Spanish because, trust me, how you feel about them is exactly how you're acting towards them. Whenever I talk about the concept of, parents not liking their children, I like to bring up two movies. The first one is Lady Bird, which is about the girl Lady Bird and her relationship with her mother. Her mother is kind of overbearing, but at the same time, it's mostly out of love because her mother has to deal with a lot. She's the breadwinner of the family. She's a nurse. She's working hard. And Lady Bird is a teenager that just wants to be stupid like every other teenager around them. And they are poor, right? They are poor, and Lady Bird wants more of life. And her mother is always like, why are you never satisfied with what I provide? Which really wasn't the crux of the problem. It was just that her mother was kind of abusive, but not in the physical way. It was more so it's hard to kind of describe exactly why this is abusive kind of way, that kind of stuff. And there's a scene in the movie, which I think is one of the most powerful scenes throughout the entire movie, where Lady Bird asks her mother, do you like me? They are shopping for clothes together, they're having a fun time. And this is rare for Lady Bird to be having a fun moment with her mother. And at that moment, she feels comfortable enough to ask a question that I think a lot of us have harbored a version of at some point in time, or probably still do. And that question is, do you like me? To which her mother hesitates to answer. As simple as that question sounds, it is actually quite profound, and the answer to it tells a lot. How you answer it tells a lot. And how does her mother answer it? Her mother gives this bullshit answer and says, I just want you to be the best version of yourself. Now, first off, if somebody is telling you, if you are asking them, do you love me? Let's say it's a parental figure, and you're asking them, do you love me or do you like me? What do you think about me? And they start referencing a future you, they don't like you. They are disappointed in one way or the other about your current existence. Because why are they answering that question by referencing a you that does not exist yet, or possibly never will exist? They are expressing indirectly dissatisfaction in your very current existence, which Lady Bird calls out, and she's like, what if this is the best version of me? With the unspoken question, will you still like me? Which then translates to, will you still love me? And Lady Bird's mother doesn't answer. Because for everything she's also a honest woman. And I don't think she herself knows the answer to that question, although I think many parents know the answer to that question. No. The answer is no. They will not love you. And I think many of us implicitly know this, we know that there is an aspect of ourselves that once we manifest that to our parents, the likelihood that they will continue to choose to be our parents, not just even begrudgingly, but actually affectionately and truthfully, genuinely and sincerely, will no longer happen. It will not be there. That love, that like, it will disappear. Many of us know that there are aspects and formulations of ourselves that if we present them to our makers, to our parents, to our guardians, we would be rejected and it will shatter us. So majority of us do this thing where we create a double persona, one for our parents that serves as the overarching bowl for the personality that we then show outside. And then we leave the actual aspect to ourselves to one or two people in our lives that are not family. The movie that also does the exact same thing, but in a different way from Lady Bird, is the movie Fences with Denzel Washington and, Viola Davis. If you've not seen that movie, I beg you. Go and watch that movie. Go and watch Fences. Go and watch Fences. And like Lady Bird, Fences also has the moment where the son, Troy, asks his father, Denzel Washington, is the son's name Troy? Yeah, the son's name is Troy. I can't remember the name of the father. But anyway, Troy asks his father, Denzel Washington,
how come you ain't never liked me?
And this is also coming in a similar moment where Troy is having a good time with his dad, which is also very rare. Are you seeing a pattern? Can you look back on your life and think, were fun moments with my parents regular? Whether your mom or your dad or together, were fun moments like regular? And when I say regular, like in a day where you're having like 100 fun interactions, majority of them were fun interactions. Yeah, sure. Nigerian parents will do batshit crazy, but like, did you have fun being your parents' child? I think that's a question many of us don't really consider and don't even think matter, but it does. If you are not enjoying being your parents' child, what makes you think that you want to continue being their child even now? But anyway, back to Fences. Troy asked his father, do you like me? And his father was like you?
What law is there say I got to like you? Want to stand up in front of my face and ask a damn fool-ass question like that? Talking about liking somebody. Come here, boy, when I talk to you. Straighten up, goddammit. I asked you a question. What law is there say I got to like you?
None.
All right, then. Don't you eat every day? Answer me when I talk to you. Don't you eat every day?
Yeah.
Nigga, as long as you in my house, you put a sir on the end of it when you talk to me.
Yes, sir.
You eat every day.
Yes, sir.
Got a roof over your head.
Yes, sir.
Got clothes on your back.
Yes, sir.
Why you think that is?
Because of you?
Hell, I know it's because of me. But why do you think that is?
Because you like me?
Like you. I go out of here every morning. I bust my butt putting up with them crackers every day because I like you. You're about the biggest fool I ever saw. It's my job. It's my responsibility. A man is supposed to take care of his family. You live in my house, fill your belly with my food, put your behind on my bed because you're my son. Because I like you, because it's my duty to take care of you. I owe a responsibility to you. Now, let's get this straight right here and now before I go along any further. I ain't got to like you. Mr. Rand don't give me my money come payday because he like me. He give it to me because he owe me. Now, I don't give you everything I got to give you. I give you your life. Me and your mama worked that out between us, and liking your black ass wasn't part of the bargain.
He said, look at me. Look into my eyes. Look into my goddamn black man eyes. Do you have a roof over your head? Do you have clothes on your back? Do you get to go to school? Do you get to eat? He said, if you're doing all of that, then I am doing my duty. I am being your father. I am providing for you. What else do you want, nigga? What else do you want, you fucking bastard? Do you think I am doing back-breaking work? Do you think I am facing the humiliation I face at work because I like you? No, I am doing this because it is my duty. I have to provide for you. I don't have to like you. My employer doesn't have to like me to pay me. I simply need to show up, do the job. And you also simply need to shut up and be the fucking child and let me be your father, provide for you, and that is it. That, my friends, is exactly how a lot of parents actually feel about their children. Because for some reason, many parents who can't seem to fathom why their children don't like them or why their children don't necessarily call them a lot, want to come home from school, many of them that can't, just fathom that, they maybe have done some things that have warranted that reaction, can't seem to grasp that when you start telling me you put food on the table, you put clothes on my back, you put a roof over my head, and that you sent me to school, are the measures by which I should judge your parenting, you're kind of creating a distance already. Because you're not referencing how you kept me safe. You're not referencing moments where you were there for me. You're not referencing moments where we shared joys together. Because even you can barely remember the last time you had a fun time with your child. As a parent, if you are listening to this as a parent, genuinely ask yourself, how many fun times and fun moments can you remember having with your children? If you can't really remember much, if it's just like 1 or 2 or 5 specific memories, yeah, your children were not having fun being your child, and you also were never happy being their parent. Something needs to change there. Many parents view love as duty. We see this a lot, especially for those of us who have grown up somewhat charismatic, Pentecostal, Anglican, we've gotten the definition of love, the agape definition of love as, love is not just feeling. In fact, it's not about the feeling is not important, it's the actions that are important. And the thing that this framework does is that it makes love more so about duty rather than it is about actual desire. And so when we are constantly framing true love through the lens of duty, through the perspective of duty, we are also telling people that the emotions, the actual true desire that qualifies this thing as love does not need to be there. And so a parent who doesn't actually love their child, or whose definition of love is so warped that they don't think that, there is supposed to be a little bit of romanticism in their parenting, would view your complaint that, I can't talk to mommy, I can't confide in mommy, or that, we can't joke with daddy, we can't do all of this. We'll view all of that as you just being spoiled and ungrateful. I am providing for you materially speaking, so why are you expecting emotional provision? We are not friends. Go to your room. The fuck? And that's how a lot of parents actually related with their children. Not in those exact words, but again, I'm very sure a bunch of you listening to this have been nodding your head along and be like, yep, yeah, definitely, yeah, And so I think a lot of parents love their children, but that love is defined primarily by the duty and also the reputation that will come their way by how well they perform that duty. I saw a TikTok last month where somebody was explaining that a lot of ways that our parents raised us is based on how much they were trying to prove to other adults that they were adults, right? They were trying to prove to the people who had authority over them, they were trying to get their approval by, being authoritative towards you. They were trying to impress adults, not necessarily trying to raise you. And so now that you are grown up, now that you are no longer a child, now that you are also an adult, there are no other adults around to impress. And when there are no other adults around to impress, they start falling apart. They start doing this weird thing where they start acting like as if you all were friends. Come here, look me in my eye. Are you friends with your daddy and mommy? I know some of you actually have positive relationship with your parents. We are not talking about you. Get away, we don't like you. I'm joking, obviously, but it is quite baffling when you hit that stage in your relationship with your African parents, with your Nigerian parents, because it's like, weren't you the one who was constantly threatening me every day? You never believed me whenever somebody reported me for something, and I was like, it's a misunderstanding. Let me tell my story. You never allowed me advocate for myself. You never allowed me stand up for myself. You never allowed me develop confidence about myself. You never once made it feel like as if I was wanted by you. But now all of a sudden I'm 23, all of a sudden I'm 21, all of a sudden I'm 25, all of a sudden I'm 30, and you're like, we don't talk anymore. And the question in our heads is, when did we used to talk? We never talked. That exactly is the problem. We never talked. There were never moments, where we were sitting down, we were just gisting and kicking like a bunch of, bratty friends. We never had those moments. I could never come home from school and gist you about what happened in school because you never cared. You never even asked me once who I liked or whether I liked anybody or whether I was involved sexually or romantically with anybody. You never cared what kind of friends I have. You never asked me once what I wanted to be. And even when I told you what I wanted to be in the future, if I ever even had that dream, you dismissed it. When certain talents that were either not masculine enough for the son you wanted me to be or feminine enough for the daughter you wanted me to be, you dismissed them. Hello? When were we ever friends? For majority of our lives, the number one constant source of bullying that many of us experience was from our parents up until our adulthood. There are literally some people who are like, if I go and live with my parents, I'm going to have a mental breakdown. There was somebody, I remember she was like, she was so bored and, living expenses. And so she told her mom that she was coming home, that she was going to spend like a week or two. Mama said by the third day, she packed up and left the house because she had forgotten how annoying her parents were. You think you like your parents? And so, yeah, it's actually quite baffling when parents who have barely given a shit about you personally as a person, they've only done their duty, they've parented you as dutifully as they can, especially as outwardly presenting as they can. They never really were curious about your life before. And so it's just jarring to experience. It's just jarring to experience. They are calling you and they are talking to you in a soft voice. They are trying to endear themselves to you. They are trying to be likable. And all of it is just off-putting because you're my bully though. Who wants to become friends with their bully? Oh, I'm no longer that way. Oh, well, good for you. Stay away from me though. You're a bully. I'm not even kidding. You are a bully. But many parents do not see themselves as bullies. Many parents simply see all the harm, the chastisement, the veiled resentments masked as jokes, all of those things that they did towards us, all of those very negative interactions that shaped our upbringing and shaped our entire outlook towards life. They don't see any of those as bullying. They don't see any of those as mean-spirited or negative. They see them as, character development, great things that were done for your formative years. Thank God my mommy beat me. If not, I don't know what I will have become today. Probably you will have become a much more healthier, well-adjusted adult. But here we are. Nigerians think they're okay, but have you seen the country? This is not a country of people who were raised to be okay, all right? No. So yeah, there are a bunch of reasons why many of us do not gel like that with our parents. There are a bunch of reasons why many people stay away from their parents, or even if they associate with their parents, they do so at arm's length. And the parents also notice this. Many parents actually notice this. I remember a conversation with my dad that I was having, and he started talking about how his children don't call him, they don't visit him. And I looked him straight in the eye and I was like, don't you think maybe you had anything to do with that? And this man could not fathom that, he had anything to do with that. Sure, yes, he's a narcissist on some level, but still. And he, like many other parents I've seen over time, would wax on and on and on about the sacrifices they made, how stressful it was, and that they cannot be blamed for the fact that, they were mean sometimes. They were simply just tired and frustrated. But see, if me, I scream at you, if me, I am mean to you, in a single moment just because I'm having a bad day, do you think you're going to let it slide? Or do you think... I know I'm going to be called every which name from bad child, misbehaving child, spoiled child to child of the devil. Okay? You're not going to allow that shit. So what makes you think it was permissible to do the same thing to me? What makes parents think it is permissible to be mean and very negative and, just overall abusive towards their children, and all will be fine because the children will understand when they grow up? And that thing, about, the children will understand when they grow up. Yes, we understand and we still call bullshit. We understand and we still call bullshit. And that, I find, isn't what many parents want. Because even in this whole trying to act like your friend thing, they are not actually trying to build a friendship majority of the time. They're trying to force you to be your friend. They are trying to demand intimacy. They're trying to demand companionship. And none of those things work that way. Just because that's how your marriage has run for the last, 30 years, where both of you have to demand things of each other, doesn't mean that that's going to work with us. So, why is there such a noticeable distance, a noticeable divide between our generation and our parents' generation? It's because those people were throwing tantrums throughout our upbringing, and you know what? We just don't need those bad vibes in our space. We just don't need those bad vibes anymore. Daddy, mommy, we love you, but stay away from us.